nobody believed in us. Everyone thought we were idiots. Like the first few years, like it was really hard to get good talent. We were fortunate to get the people we did, but we also had some hiring decisions that weren't great because we just the talent pool was way smaller.
Did you know that 91% of phishing attacks are conducted via email? Freight brokers are particularly at risk as email is the primary, really only option to collect carrier invoices, until now. ePay Manager powered by OTR Solutions is a back office, automation, and carrier payments platform that revolutionizes brokerage back offices with their proactive invoicing workflow, a centralized portal that gets you out of your email. The key to ePay's invoicing workflow is that the invoice is proactively triggered by the broker's TMS and is only created once the carrier reviews the details, which catches invoice disputes early on. This means that you can increase your invoice processing by up to 300 to 500% and reduce billing inaccuracies by 99%. Learn more about ePay by visiting epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to see what they can do for your brokerage. Today's podcast is also brought to you by TextLocate. TextLocate makes it easy for brokers to communicate directly with drivers via SMS-based text messaging, no app to download without having to use personal communication devices. Features like two-way text chat, one-time location updates, and image capture, think BOLs and PODs, all inside a simple dashboard, give brokers the quick updates they need to make better decisions about freight. Instead of wasting time calling drivers, brokers simply automate the process through TextLocate and save hours at very little cost investment. Go to textlocate.com to learn more. Struggling to find and retain qualified staff while keeping costs in check? In today's competitive logistics landscape, this challenge can make or break your bottom line. Ameripol offers a solution that helps reduce staffing costs by over 50% without sacrificing quality. Born out of logistics, they understand transportation industry demands. They provide talented EU-based professionals who seamlessly integrate with your team, allowing you to scale operations efficiently. Don't let staffing challenges hinder growth. Optimize your workforce and boost profitability with Ameripol. Visit transport.ameripolstaffing.com to discover how Ameripol can help your business operate more efficiently.
All right, folks. Welcome to another episode of FreightCaviar.
My bad.
Oh no, sorry. FreightCaviar. Yeah, FreightCaviar Podcast. We're joined. We have an illustrious group with us right now. Mostly Bob, but maybe Andrew Silver and Kevin Nolan as well, and then me and Paul. We got a squad here. We're currently sitting in the Aerotrans warehouse. Shout out Aerotrans. Shout out Peter. He's in the background. He's not listening though. This should be good. We'll get him listening here in a second. But happy to have you guys. This is dope.
No,
this is a good setting.
Coming, Chi-Town, Chicago, baby.
We're doing this, recording, then we're hitting the sauna. Kevin's got his hat with him.
I'm ready.
The only thing he brought, no bags.
No bags, just the hat, ready to go.
We got it there. We got him for a couple hours. We're gonna go sweat it out after this, but first we got to have a little conversation because this is pretty awesome to have you guys here. So thanks for coming, and welcome to whatever. This big ass warehouse.
It's awesome, man. What a facility.
So, real quick, I guess before we start, I wanted to kind of hear your guys' story. Because you guys, how'd you guys meet?
How'd you meet? You want to take that?
Yeah, so we met in 2018 at the Project 44 conference, whatever they were doing back then. And I just remember walking out on a rooftop. This was kind of the after hours or the happy hour part of the event.
But what were you doing at this time in 2018?
So it was 2018. I had just officially come on board at MoLo. So I was, first time as CEO of this business. And I think this was one of the first conferences I was attending. Granted, it was, there weren't very many shippers there.
I think conference is a...
is that a loosely used term?
Loose term. It was awesome. I mean, it was a really good event. Did you hear that in the background? That's not me ripping gas. That's actually a chainsaw.
We are currently in an active loading zone. All right. So
there are trucks loading and unloading. This is a cross-dock facility. So anyway, so we're at the P44 conference. I just remember walking out onto the rooftop, maybe a drink in my hand, and I see 5 guys kind of standing around talking, and Kevin's standing smack dab in the middle of them.
He was holding court.
He's holding court. He's always holding court.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, I walked up, want to introduce myself. Maybe I knew who it was. I can't quite remember that part. The most memorable piece of this was me handing him a business card saying, "Hey, I'm Andrew Silver." And you said,
I said, guys like us, we don't have business cards. We take them. And if it, it's a good point. If it takes a card for you to remember me, I didn't do my job. But 2018, we were blowing and going. But gosh, what a night. We had it all.
What were you doing in 2018?
I was, at that point, actually negotiating and finalizing the deal with Transportation Insight.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was Brokerage was humming along well. I was actively involved in some of the other investments that I had started, but I was in similar to I am now, but I mean, just running around doing fun things. And this event we went to, it was like the P44 kickoff party, so to say.
Yeah.
They had Mark Wahlberg at the dinner. My table was me, Andrew Silver, Nathan Robbie Nathan from Load Delivered, and Andrew Leto. So the four of us were like,
there was a lot of ego at that table.
it was awesome.
We had fun.
But Kevin and I bonded. At first, it clashed, but then by the end of the dinner, it was like a gelled team just ready to take on Chicago.
Kevin and I became fast friends. I think, Kev's got this kind of infectious energy. He and I are similar in a lot of ways, but his energy is something I was just...
Did you immediately implement his no business card strategy?
No, I'm bad about business cards, but that's more just disorganization and losing them than it is... LinkedIn, man, click a few buttons and we can find each other. I'm ready for business cards to be a thing of the past.
Let's be real, though. The MoLo title, what was your title at that time?
CEO. I came...
Right, so you had the CEO, so you wanted to put it on the card.
Yeah, you have to.
So
you have to. You did that at one point, come on.
I did it. I never had a...
You didn't have any Waffle House business cards?
I did maybe have a Waffle House business card or two.
Top waffle, baby.
So Kevin, you knew Andrew already, right? Because you met Jeff.
I knew his father.
Okay.
I knew his father. I met his father at a conference. And I mean, obviously, had been a huge fan. And C.H. Robinson, when I was there, bought American Backhaulers.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the Silver name in Chicago I knew of. But then when MoLo really started kicking, then we would see each other at the DAT conference. Or we would see each other at the Freight Waves conferences. And he and I would sit around and talk shop till late or early in the morning, and just really got along well. And I felt also his father, after I met him at that conference, was always there for me, was always a cheerleader for me. And it was kind of a cool thing to...
So when you met Andrew, you immediately knew who he was and who he was affiliated with, or no?
And we had never met face to face, but I knew who he was.
Yeah, so you had some context.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he thought I was an arrogant prick.
No, I didn't. There was an article or two that had just popped out, right? So you guys had some press that had just come out.
Yeah.
So it was a great time.
Did he give you, Andrew? Did Kevin give you any good brokerage tips? Any actionable advice beyond the business card stuff? Any lasting impact in that meeting?
I think there's something that I have taken a little bit from Kev. I don't know that he necessarily directly said to me, "Hey, you should do this," but there's something about the way kind of Kev cares about his people that you just see in the relationships he has with a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it just was apparent that there were a lot of people that he worked closely with that really, really respected and appreciated him. And I think he's got such a big heart that I think that's kind of where that comes from. And I definitely have tried to, that's been a part of how I try to run my business. And I don't know, the more I think the leader invests their time and energy and shows they really genuinely care about their people, I think the more that business gets out of the people itself.
I mean, one of the cool things that Andrew shared with me was when they were delivering the news on the MoLo transaction, and people that had pieces of the business were getting $200,000 checks and bigger, and how happy you were to see employees that had put their time and energy in now to be able to go out and buy that house or the car or whatever else that they wanted. That was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard thing to manage in a business, is how to delve out, potential equity in employees. But it was something that, Matt and I every year try to sit down and look at, who's really earned something. And every year we try to, allocate some for that. And then, that was probably one of the best days of my life when we got to kind of tell our team individually, the people who had been there from the onset, or the people who had come in and made a really big impact, the people who had sacrificed short-term compensation, say, hey, I could be making $300,000 a year as a salesperson, but you need me to help build out this team or this training or this, that. And, there's a pay cut that tends to come with that, right? Not being on the sales commission and choosing to be the director of training, like someone like Haley or someone, but like when you can then give that back in the form of, ownership in the business. And then the day you get to sit down with them and say, hey, this deal is happening and there's going to be compensation for that. That was a really rewarding day for sure.
Sweet.
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community.
So, Kevin, you sold in 2018.
I was a sold majority. I still am a large shareholder, but I'm, off the management team, so to say.
And then, Andrew, you was 2021?
November of 2021.
Got it. Okay. And you guys were talking, I'm guessing, throughout, those 3 years, a lot about everything that's going on. What were those conversations like? Were you just having fun when you...
Depended on the market.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too. The emotion in the conversation was generally driven by how the business was doing, which was a product of how the market was doing. I mean, I think both of our businesses grew through the good and the bad markets, but that doesn't mean that the margins were good and that the cash available was good and that everything was good. I think we're both highly emotional people. I think it's something that can be a valuable tool for us because it allows us to get people fired up and excited about the business. But there's a downside to that when it's not managed super well. And I won't speak for you, but it's something I dealt with as a challenge. In 2020.
Are you kidding? It's like my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, the emotional aspect of it, especially when you care so much about a business. When you care so much about a business, you are emotionally attached to it. And so when it has a bad day and it wears off you, so that's why it's great sometimes to have different personalities on your management team.
100%.
Yeah. How did
MoLo
takes it differently?
Well, no, it's just every partnership, every team is different. When I think about our team, I had a partner, Matt Brokerage, who ran the day-to-day of our business. And there are certain things that I did that he couldn't do, and there are a lot of things that he did that I couldn't do. And I think especially in the most challenging times when things would get emotional and I would get really frustrated, he was able to keep a cool head, stay in the weeds, and keep the team doing what they needed to do day to day to keep the business running how it needed to. Whereas I would get easily frustrated and emotional, and if I was going to be erratic, it would be potentially detrimental to the team and make it harder for us to execute on what we needed to.
Well, you scare people. I do it too. Whereas we react quick and then move on. React quick and move on. There's a lot of people that don't interact with you often, and if they haven't seen you in a while and all of a sudden they see this crazy mad person, their world is upside down, even though 15 minutes before that, you could have been laughing on the floor having the greatest time.
Yeah.
So to your point about having a steady hand adult in the room. So I would describe him, Fritz, Blake, others that have been around me as the adults in the ring.
So I come from a carrier side. What's something that, I guess from the broker side, that you have to deal with that that goes off completely off the rails? What's a big thing that you guys would stress about the most?
Stolen loads.
Stolen loads?
Stolen loads. I think back to for me, there were a few instances where we failed for a shipper and there was a really high expectation set. I mean, we were building our entire business, the value proposition off of our ability to service and execute at the highest level. And we had situations, and let me be clear, our team did an excellent job every day.
Yeah.
But there was one shipper where we had 3 to 4 issues in a row that, I don't really think was our fault. But in that moment, when I got the email on Friday night at 10 o'clock that we had failed, even though we had set 16 different safeguards to prevent us from failing, it happened. That's when I explode, and it's like, what the hell? What are we doing? This is, it's not right. So that I think was one. And then 2, you'd get frustrated by, days when you'd be looking at every day, any owner, executive, C-level person in a brokerage is staring at their numbers every day. They're in Power BI or whatever tool they use to understand exactly how we're doing on every single customer, how the business is doing overall, how many loads did we move, what was our revenue, what was our margin per load, and then you're nitpicking. You're looking at specific, why is this customer at 4% today? And the real frustrating things are when people make careless mistakes, right? So, let's say it's June 10th, and you have a customer who you're not primary for their business out of Florida, the refrigerated juice out of Florida. They haven't sent you refrigerated juice loads all year. When it was easy to move loads, they didn't send them to you. And then they sent you 5 on June 10th, where it's going to cost $3 a mile, and your rate is $2.10. And you've got someone who carelessly just kind of accepted those loads. There wasn't really a strategy behind why they accepted them. They just took them because they weren't really paying attention.
Pay you in 90 days. How you got to pay the truckers and the money aspect.
And that's frustrating because for some people it's like, it's just a job and they're just, some cases, click buttons. I think we were really fortunate that we didn't have a ton of people like that, but there were instances where that happened, and that would be frustrating as an org because then you're looking at what's the manager doing? Why weren't they aware that we were taking that business and making those mistakes? Because those things add up when you're moving 1,000 loads a day and that happens.
But as an executive, you're much more acutely aware of the second order effects of poor decision making on those sorts of individual levels. And when you're in that seat, you might not ever think about that. And it's on managers and it's on executives to basically almost provide, instill that idea into the heads of people who might not normally think that way, right? I mean, there's some level of that.
But the salesperson was excited and thought there might have been a chance to cover it at 210. Or,
depends. I think that's where incentive matters. The salesperson, yes, 100% is, but the other person generally is sharing in. Sorry, this guy behind.
I love that.
The winding.
You got to put those load bars down.
It's dropped along more ours. Right. He's actually creating work.
He's working over there. He's grinding. I respect it. All right, he's done there. What I was going to say, though, is
ePay Manager, powered by OTR Solutions, is a back office automation and carrier payments platform that revolutionizes brokerage back offices with their proactive invoicing workflow, a centralized portal that gets you out of your email. Learn more about ePay by visiting epaymanager.com or text ePayFC to 80483 to see what they can do for your brokerage.
The salesperson typically shares in that accountability. They lose when the business loses. So if they take the loads at 210 and it costs $3, there's money coming out of their pocket.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Where one of the challenges we had was within operations. If an operations person was accepting loads,
It wasn't commission.
and they weren't, they had a bonus that was maybe tied to a more general.
They didn't take
margin
losses.
profile.
They
They didn't take as many.
Yeah.
It didn't impact them as much, and that's for I think as you're building or running a brokerage, you have to be very specific about how you create incentives and align people's work to the incentives of the actual business.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's like the load we just hauled through that you guys lost $30 on it.
Absolutely.
Somebody just didn't care. But
They care, but
they're
they've
good about the market.
Yeah.
There's also been the situation where somebody fell off.
yeah, exactly.
And it's a large customer that we do well on at other times, and so it's like live another day.
Yeah.
Right? That's the way.
Take losses on loads all the time. You don't want to, but you do. I mean, there's a million scenarios.
I'm sure we're taking losses on hundreds of loads today.
Yeah.
To go back to your
But winning on more.
stolen load. So what happens when, say, you're a big broker and you have a stolen load? What's the steps? Can you walk us through it? Because we don't know as a carrier. I mean,
It becomes a business decision a lot. First of all, you have to look at the customer,
okay.
right? And then you got to look at your insurance. So when I first started, I had a large customer, and I got my own MC as a broker in 2007. We had a company out of Cincinnati, David J. Joseph Company, and we were moving out of Medley, Florida to North Carolina and Ohio, scrap aluminum and scrap copper.
Okay.
I didn't know it, but that was excluded from my insurance policy, my E&O and everything else. So $180,000 worth of stuff gone. Now, I'm also out there leveraging David J. Joseph's name because they're one of the biggest scrap recyclers, and I'm calling everyone in the scrap industry telling them I'm working with them.
Yeah.
So then it was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to pay you all at once, $180,000. And I'm not going to be able to use you. So I went up there, hat in hand, and said to him, look, the insurance, by the way, the load was gone and melted in Ocala before I could even, you know what I'm saying? It was an inside job, for sure. Like, hey, if you see loads on the board going from Medley to whatever else, there's $90,000 worth of scrap that we can have melted for 40 in 20 minutes, grab it.
Yeah.
So it's gone. New broker put the carrier on that load. Right, new broker had never been broker's still with me, actually, a salesperson at OTR right now. Chris Ebel, you guys know Ebel.
Chris is a homie.
You got to ask him about this situation.
You better.
So we went up to Cincinnati, hat in hand, and we told them, they said, listen, we're about to load your ass up with freight. If you don't pay us, we're going to move a lot of freight for free. And we're going to tell, and Jackie, who ran that department, she was one of the first shippers I'd ever been around that had on-time delivery scores and all this other stuff. And so she gave us business, and we built it off of it, but it was a really bad situation because the carrier that we put on it, Secret Squirrel was their name, and K. Holy was the other one.
Oh, wow.
They just got us, man. They got us. And so I had to pay that off over a year and a half.
Wow.
$10,000 a month.
Dang. That's crazy. That's actually...
They might have had insurance, too. Who knows? Right? But, Secret Squirrel. I know. They just saying 10 grand about that.
Watch this.
Why wouldn't you go after the carrier that had the...
They're gone.
Yeah.
They disappear.
Gone in 60 seconds, Nicolas Cage.
I mean, so they had all the things that this was before you really had any, carrier vetting type situations. And so, we'd have to Google Earth. And if anyone had a P.O. box or if anyone had a UPS store as their office, it was like...
But this still happens till this day. I was just telling you, Ray had 9 pallets of copper that was literally cross dock at our facility, and it was stolen. The broker literally showed up at our facility. We have a cross dock. It's just one door, and the same thing, 9 pallets.
Broker stole it? No, the broker came looking for it.
So you cross-docked the load.
I transloaded it.
You didn't know it was stolen.
I mean, look.
What'd you sell it for?
I wish I wouldn't be here. But
That's a nice watch you got there.
He actually... he was at River Casino all night last night.
But it's still happening even with all this technology and everything that's out.
It's easier now. We've we have to get digital as a business. I always sing around that let's get physical, that let's get digital. I think there was a commercial.
You go digital broker style?
We have to,
Today's podcast is also brought to you by TextLocate. TextLocate makes it easy for brokers to communicate directly with drivers via SMS-based text messaging, no app to download, without having to use personal communication devices. Go to textlocate.com to learn more.
The cost to transact has to continue to go down over time.
Yep.
Right? And we have to become caught up with the times of transactions and everything else. So when you get new technologies or new ways to let people buy from you or sell whatever else, they steal things.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to get better, with two-way auth. There's just a lot of things our industry has allowed for some bad people to thrive.
Yeah, last few that brought this load in, it was called Heaven Freight out of New York City. When I looked up their address, it was a nail salon.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty crazy.
So you help your
I helped the broker try to find a good thing. So they had a tracker on 5 of the pallets, and they actually found those 5 pallets.
They found them. That's huge.
But what they did was basically, because they said it's a transload, it was 9 pallets that came in, and then they loaded up 5 pallets into one trailer, and then split the other 4 pallets into box trucks. Which is even more crazy. The way these scams work nowadays is just insane.
You got everyone's getting crafty out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know, where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, I think it's making the brokers get better and better on their vetting stance and what they do. We have several people at NTG that's all they do, right? Is they look at carriers to make sure that they're real. And, just like Home Depot has an anti-theft group, right? As a big organization, you have to get that. The other thing is phishing emails. Fake wire instructions, and your employee doesn't go through the standard operating procedures, and somebody says, hey, I'm not Fleet One factoring anymore. Send me my $500,000 wire to here. And it happens. That's scary. That's what keeps you up at night, especially, and then you have $500,000 tied up, and if you're a smaller broker.
So we've got like 15 minutes left. So let's use the rest, I think, to talk about like what you guys got going on now and like what you're thinking about, like what you're working on. Who wants to go first?
Your world, Kev. I'm working on lots of things. I'm having lots of fun. I mean, my family, first and foremost, has been the center of my life. And when you build a freight brokerage, as Andrew knows, you kind of live like a rock star, right? You run around to the offices, you're running around to customers, you're firing up the troops. And so, as I've transitioned out of that role, I've been able to spend a ton more time with my daughters. So I have 3 daughters. They're all at different ages and different parts of their life. And then my family office, Soap Creek, is doing great investments. We just invested in that parts distribution business I was telling you guys about. We're constantly looking at new businesses.
How many new businesses do you evaluate a week, you think?
I forward a lot of emails to Joe, Brennan, and Planted, to be honest. But and I let them feel it out. And if it gets to them, that means that's something I liked about it.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
So you're a filter.
They're a filter, and they're going to... So I would say yes and gamble on anything. He probably would too, right? So we have to have people in our life...
Sensible people.
...that can say no.
Yeah.
And we've said yes to some that went bad, but we've said yes to the majority that have gone really, really well.
So you spend most of your time thinking about investments, hanging out with the family, like mentoring, going to the sauna, mentoring... and Andrew, what do you got going on these days?
So, I left MoLo in March of last year, so it's almost been a year and a half. I've been golfing a lot.
On Sunday.
Yeah, I did. My handicap dropped from a 22 to a 15.
Not working will do that for you.
Got more work to do there.
Yeah. Beat my ass in Georgia. Sucks.
I've got 807 days left on my non-compete, which is pretty broad today. I'm hoping that could change, but I missed
7 days. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you keep track every day.
Yeah, I know it. I know. There's 807 left.
Okay.
He gets a notification in the
I think
807.
So I started working for my pops earlier this year, which has been interesting. Joining a established business that's got 1,000 employees. It's 5 years old. When Brokerage did too. My old partner, we both have. It's weird. It's fun, but it's hard when you're accustomed to running something and building it. It's really hard to come in and just be part of a team.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really need. This was kind of like both sides helping each other out because there's not much else we could do, and he needed some help. Getting it with new opportunities, but he didn't need us at the executive level running the business.
Yeah.
So, if there things could change there, but I don't envision we'll be there forever. Just because we have that itch, I think we both do, to build again. And I don't know that that'll be Brokerage. I mean, if I have to wait 807 days, it might be Brokerage. If not, I think there's a lot in this industry, a lot of areas of opportunity in the industry. I don't really consider myself much of an investor or VC. I just don't think I'm smart enough to know what's good and what's not. I think there's a lane that I think I can do well in, and it has to do with building a business and working with people, motivating, getting people rallied around a vision. That's kind of my honey hole. And my brother's like, why don't you be a VC? Why don't you, advise? And I'm like, I don't think I have that much to advise. I just, I miss building.
You're waiting for the right opportunity.
So yeah, so I'm poking around. I'm talking to people and looking at stuff. And recently married. Well, married. Yeah, I'm 4 months into marriage, so that's great.
How's that going?
Dog,
It's awesome.
dog. Oh, I've had a dog. Yeah,
It's actually the
My
perfect
dog-
time for you to get married.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great to have some kids now while I'm not,
Yeah.
on the 60-hour-a-week grind. There's things I miss about that grind, but at the same time, it's I don't know that those first few years are really hard. I don't know. I miss emailing potential customers at 9:00 at night, and just the 30 times you email them, they go unresponded, and it was better than Christmas morning when you got that response though.
Yeah.
Because it was gently
with 4 loads of juice.
from Florida, $2 a month.
Perfect. What I'm curious, Andrew. So 807 days left. So let's in some fictional world where you don't have a non-compete and you start a business today. Is it another brokerage? Like, where do you see the opportunity? And if it were a brokerage, how would your model differ, if any, from what you did with MoLo?
So I definitely think there still is opportunity in brokerage. If in a lot of ways, I feel like I've got some unfinished business there.
Yeah.
But I don't really want to compete with my old team, if I'm being perfectly honest too. I think they're pretty stellar at what they do, but it's an unfortunate situation where it's like, you got to at some point choose yourself and do what makes you happy. And brokerage is what I love.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind though. I've talked to some folks about working on a business that would try to create some automation within brokerage to support brokers, to work on specific functions within brokerage that I think over time could be automated. And I think I wouldn't mind being able to sell to brokers and help brokers make their business better. I think that could be fun. Brokerage has an interest in factoring, which is completely different than, I think it's a similar market fragmentation and opportunity in terms of there's a couple really big ones that are good. And then there's a lot of really small ones that maybe aren't as good. And so there's always opportunity in a market like that for someone who comes in, is hungry enough, has the right technology and financial backing to build something, good. But it's also, for me, when I think about brokerage, it's like the first time around, it was really hard. Nobody believed in us. Everyone thought we were idiots. The first few years, it was really hard to get good talent. We were fortunate to get the people we did, but we also had some hiring decisions that weren't great. Because the talent pool was way smaller. I mean, my reputation as a 27-year-old was kind of this party boy idiot who was kind of smart and could sell a little bit.
How old are you now?
34.
What's it now?
I don't know, but I think I just, my point though is I don't party anymore. That's for one. But at the same time though, it's people didn't believe in us day one in 2017. So it was harder to get really good people. If we were to start over, whether it's now or in 2 years, people would believe.
It'd be very different.
People would see the opportunity, and I think it would be easier to do it again. I think technology will change a little bit of how you have to attack the business, but that's an opportunity, I think, more than anything. So there'd be plenty for us still to learn. But yeah, I mean, I would do it again if the
Would you
opportunity.
have that same drive though, doing a second time? Because I feel like if I sold my trucking company, I don't know if I would have the drive to go.
Yeah, so
And I know I could do it.
So tell us about your trucking company. 20 trucks out of Charlotte?
Yeah, we're just out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
When did you start it?
I started driving when I was 21 years old. I drove for my brother for 7 years. So then I became an owner-operator out of Chicago, a company here called Gulfstream Logistics. I was an owner-operator for, I think, 2 years. And then I was offered a job in Charlotte as a dispatcher manager. So I sold my trucks, sold everything in Charlotte or Rochester, New York, and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. Worked as a dispatcher there for 7 months, and then quit, kind of retired because I had rental properties. And then I'm this is boring. So I'm let's start a trucking company. I started.
What year was that?
It was 4 years ago. So right at 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got in at a good time.
I got in at a good time, but we only had one truck. So I literally went back to driving. I was driving. Diana was dispatching.
Yeah.
And then we got the second truck. Our insurance wouldn't let us grow for the first year, so we were only at 2 trucks. So We didn't.
That's why you're expensive, man. That's why NTG can't make any money on because you bought those trucks. You bought the trucks when you grew, and the equipment was very expensive.
We did okay. Like I was very picky with what I was buying. You know, we didn't pay like $250,000 for a truck or anything.
Our trailers were going for like $70,000-$80,000.
Yeah, our biggest trailer that we bought was for $55,000.
55. And what is that trailer worth now?
Probably like 25.
See, I think the equipment game is going to pop back up a little bit when the market turns. That's very interesting to me.
That's why I'm not selling some of my older trailers, because right now, if I was to take it to an auction, I would get like $3,000 for it. It does. So I was looking at Taylor and Martin's. There's an auction that sells like equipment, and it's so cheap to buy equipment right now. It's insane.
How hard has the last 18 months been to keep the business running?
Very hard. It's very hard because I think, so for us, and we do like good service and everything, I just feel like even with the brokers, I think everyone's cutting everyone under. So even the same thing with trucking companies, everybody's just trying to get to the lowest number possible. The brokers are undercutting the brokers. So for example, we had a broker that we were working with every single week. She was sending me loads all the time. We created great provided great service to them, and then all of a sudden she's like, Bob, I don't have these loads anymore. A different broker underbid it under me, and then that load is gone. Like we don't even know who it is. And then it was started posting on DET for like half of the rate what we were hauling.
Yeah. So it was just insane. Did you ever call and talk to that company?
Which company?
Who else ships the load now? Like who posted the load? Brokerage.
It was a different broker.
Yeah. Did you ever call?
It was just cheap. Like we wouldn't make any money. We were literally running.
Do people post the majority of loads with money showing now?
A lot of them do, yeah.
What percentage would you say?
I would say it's more than 50%, probably 60% I think goes with that. Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're going to make the phone call, now what percentage of those do you feel like you can negotiate on? And what percentage do you know?
All of them you can negotiate. I'm like,
so that's where the digital part is different, right? Because there is still the negotiation between.
These guys are accustomed. They're accustomed to the rate digitally presented to them, and
like
nowhere near what
you're not doing your job. You know,
on both sides.
These brokers don't post
both sides.
Actually have in the load. Like if I have 2,500.
But we should.
Sometimes they do.
Well, I mean, okay, maybe there's scenarios where they do, but my point is carriers are trained to pick up the phone and try to get more money.
Yeah.
And that's been the feedback forever.
Yeah, and brokers are trained to pick up the phone and try to get us money.
See, I think it's changed, though. I think over the last few years, when there was so much loads on the board and people were hired and new, and I mean, you got to remember that I bet the majority of the staff that works in transportation was hired during COVID right now.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of the staff in logistics, over 50%, I would say, because it's such a high turnover industry.
You hear yourself?
Oh, just, yeah,
Everything.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks, because sometimes we tell the broker our operating cost this and this, and they don't even care. They're like, well, DAT average is this. And we're like, well, we can't haul it for DAT average because we're not making any money.
But they can't pay you it because it's the market and they won't get the load if it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So something's got to give sooner or later because brokers can't. And people always say, oh, I want broker transparency. I want to know what I make on a load. Okay, go look at Uber Freight's public numbers. Go look at JB Hunt's public numbers. Go look at C.H. Robinson's public numbers. They're there. You can look at the margin and figure it out. It's cost, is truck, right? And, sales is what the customers are. And the difference is the margin. So Uber's not making money. They've lost how much money on the freight brokerage, you think, since they've been in it?
All of it. I don't know.
$1 billion, $2 billion?
Last quarter. How much they put it.
Right. And you had all these digital brokers come in that just wanted top line. So they bid out crazy. So we're still in this flush out of rates.
It's going to change.
Right. Where people had to get revenue so they could raise more money.
Yeah.
Get more load count so they could raise more money and keep the lights on. And so you have all these historical rates that are going to peel off over the next few years, but it's still going to take a little more time. So you're like holding on.
Right.
If you hold on long enough, I mean, it'll pay off eventually. So it have to pay.
I'm curious what changes you've had to make in your business to hold on.
Pay less to the drivers.
That's number one.
Yeah, just work yourself more and then hire less people.
Ameripol offers a solution that helps reduce staffing costs by over 50% without sacrificing quality. Visit transport.ameripolstaffing.com to discover how Ameripol can help your business operate more efficiently.
What about taking loads off the? What percentage of the loads are you associated with when they book? Like who deals with the carriers when they call in on those 20 trucks?
What do you mean with the?
I'm sorry, not the carriers. Who deals with the brokers?
Diana and Walter and Andrew.
But what about shippers direct?
That's another hard thing because sometimes you go to shipper direct and they're actually paying less than the broker. Because sometimes the broker, so for example, back in the day, I hauled an Uber freight load. I show up there and I start talking to these guys and I'm like, and they're asking me questions too, how often I run this thing, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, I do this and that. And I'm like, well, how much did Uber pay, or how much are you guys paying Uber to haul this? And they're like $800, but Uber paid me like $900. Yeah. I'm like, how does this make any logical sense?
It does it, sir. Uber does it. It does it. Stop doing that, guys. For Uber, that's the business.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But it's also, so imagine me going to that shipper and being like, hey, I'll haul your stuff.
They have no incentive to move it to somebody else. But like that's what venture dollars, when they don't have the profit motive that most brokerages are beholden to. I mean, it distorts the market.
Yeah.
When there's piles of capital to be in with seeking no profit,
there's no more pot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's running its course.
Yeah,
I think
it's
and I think Uber, to be fair to them, I think there was intended to be a means. It was intended to be a means to an end, and the thought was that they could aggregate enough capacity, and they wanted to buy their way into that capacity. They could do some magical things with the technology.
Yeah.
And I think they've created some interesting technology that has benefited the business. I think like the ratings of facilities is something that Uber came out with for shippers that is definitely a leg up on what other brokers were able to bring to the market. But it doesn't change the fact that they hurt the market a ton by subsidizing freight costs for shippers to get to where they were trying to go. And they have failed to, I guess, actualize that value in moving freight. I think I would not be surprised if we get to a place where Uber sells off their brokerage or moves away from brokerage altogether. They still have the managed trans business. They still have plenty of nifty technology. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're ultimately becoming a DAT load board type business. And at some point, they will either have to make money moving freight or stop being a freight broker.
That's where they messed up. They should have stayed Switzerland because their core business, Uber people moving in the cars, all of us could drive for them tonight.
Yeah.
None of us, well, I'm sure a few, but I can't drive a 53 dry van or flatbed. So they didn't change the market, but they changed prices.
yeah.
Right? So if they would have brought a whole bunch of capacity in like they did in the cab world, like I could have, but they didn't bring in any new capacity.
But the owner-operators love working with them because they know they're getting paid in 3 days. They don't have to do factoring. They have a lot of positive things. That's why I don't think they're going to go away. And I also think
they've scaled back that pay program.
And what I think what they're doing now is it's paid plus. So whenever, like, say I'm a shipper and I want to post with Uber and they cover for $800 because that's what the market, well, they're going to give Uber $50 extra. So it'll be $850. So they're just going to take
some more transparent pricing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have a couple minutes left, so I just want to finish up with asking you what you're bullish on this industry. Like, what are a few companies or aspects of the industry that you think pump your bags right now? Yeah, pushing in.
Pump what?
Pump your bags.
The things we like right now that are in the marketplace. Highway's cool. We talked about that earlier. Jordan and his team have done an amazing job. They really came in and at a time when needed. I love Lean. I've always loved Lean. I think they've helped with back office costs that were very high. I want to find a TMS for truckers. I'm working hard on that. I love my parts business. Got a lot of cool shit going on.
What am I high on right now? That's a weird way to say that.
Nothing. I've been pouring this down.
I am sober. What businesses am I high on? I mean, highway is definitely one of them, but you know, we invested in that, so that's kind of unfair to say.
Why is that unfair to say?
I mean, it's biased. I think Good Ship's a great business, a procurement tool that sits on top of the TMS for shippers, run by Ryan Soskin, a former Convoy and Coyote guy. I personally introduced him to, I think, 3 shippers now, and all of them loved the product. It's kind of cool when you can make a connection and there's actually value created for the company there. if I'm high on Cargado, my brother's Mexico business. I mean, listen, nobody's focused on Mexico in terms of creating a business that adds value the way that they are. And everyone's talking about Mexico and nearshoring and how that's getting bigger. What else? I don't know. I think,
What do you think peak season is going to be like this year?
I am not bullish on the market. I am not, FreightWaves has predicted the recovery is underway. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't see it, and I could be wrong, but I'm hopeful. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the market turns ASAP and rates go up so your drivers can get paid the way they should be, so brokers can stop having to lay off people, so companies stop going out of business. But it doesn't really make sense. I heard there are green shoots that, the public guys are seeing, and hopefully that's true. But it still feels too early to say that recovery is, well underway. So
I keep hearing that we're at the bottom now for the last year.
yeah, it's been a long.
Fritz Owens from OTR describes it really, really well, and I think that the Werner CEO, Derek Leather, said this as well. We're running along a bathtub bottom floor, right? It's like we dropped into the, and we're just running straight across, just slipping across. We might have had a little bit of and Shelley used a great term when she gave her speech, be careful of false starts.
JB Hunt CEO.
Yeah. And be careful of false starts. And we might have had a little bit of one in July, but August seems a little soft,
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
A couple days ago.
Just seems, but it's August, guys. It's a little bit of a lull, right? And so we'll see in September and October. I think the market is going to be better than people think. I'm a large investor in an insurance business, Marquee, and we've lost so much of our book over the last year and a half that at a certain point, somebody has to move this freight.
Yeah.
So until the freight sits on the dock doors, we won't see a lot of movement, but it's coming. It always does.
I'm bullish on the freight pod. Gotta plug the podcast.
Honestly, the pod is the bomb, dude. For real. It's like a breath of fresh air content-wise, I think.
Yeah.
Podcast you did together with, I think, episode number 2.
Episode one.
Episode 1.
I knew who I needed to launch it with, and it was this guy.
That was a really good story. What's the most viewed pod you have?
It's Convoy, and then it's Pyatt, and then it's Kevin's up there. He's 3 or 4. Drieger's got a lot.
Yeah.
There's some good ones. I think the most interesting one, and I got some shit for this, but I also got the most interesting feedback for it, was the one with Omar Singh last week about Surge.
Yeah.
It's hard when you're recording a podcast because you don't know how, people can just tell you whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
And, you're trying to get to the root of the story, but someone can make up that I've seen people I know go and lie about their accolades, and people are going to tell their story. But I really enjoyed just getting to sit and have what I felt was an honest conversation with him, where he opened up about a really challenging thing. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that look at it those guys burned carriers and factors.
Yeah.
And we talked about it though. The feedback I was getting from it was that was the most intense podcast episode I listened to in our industry. It felt like a therapy almost.
Yeah.
But we asked kind of hard questions, and I felt like he gave honest answers. But then I had some people text me that was bullshit. So it's I do my best.
I'm so mixed on him, but here's what I'll say. At least he's facing the music. Right? You know what I'm saying?
He took all the questions. He didn't say, no, you can't ask me this, you can't ask me that. And he answered them, felt mostly truthfully.
Yeah.
Well, we posted about them on our newsletter as well. You got some backlash. Why are you supporting this? Why are you promoting it?
Well, sometimes that's good.
That's what I got.
You have to have sides,
Yeah, and do I think when he opened his business, he felt like he was going to fail? No. Did he make some serious mistakes? Absolutely. So if he can share those and help others not make them, but it can't be pat on the back, brother, you're back, you're in. You're not in yet. I mean, the factoring companies are not going to turn him back on until he proves or pays back some of that stuff.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's fun to be able to tell
it's interesting to watch, and the fact that you can get it and talk about it and let us see it all Really.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's that's one plus of your non-compete. You probably wouldn't have done that otherwise.
Well, yeah, I was trying to do it, but wasn't allowed to. But it certainly motivated me to do it more.
Yeah.
After the fact, it's been a fun
Yeah,
thing
it's good.
to do.
It's a
Forgot to
blessing.
mention that. Yeah.
I mean, it's been good for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm bullish on NTG too.
Yeah, baby.
Like, just straight up, if you want to come work at a broker that's kicking ass and growing, like I heard from Ken, our CEO, he's going to hire a class in the fall and a class in January, right? So we're growing. And if you want to come work with us, come. We've got a great brand, good carrier sales, help you cover your loads. Come on.
Love that.
I love it. I mean, I that's the brokerage is, and Andrew talking about his fire of loving it and what it does. That's what we all love, is a good, energetic freight brokerage.
Sure, I'm with that.
You guys ever really think the chances of trucking company?
What's that?
You guys ever thought about opening a trucking company?
Absolutely not.
Want to invest in one, Andrew?
I don't think so.
There's right here. Bob's got a great trucking company.
Yeah, I bet it's a great company. I don't think that would be.
I think I invest in them every day, man. I do. Trying to keep them moving, trying to find ways to help them. You know, if you look at NTG's margin percentage since starting to now, like, and the way that we treat carriers is so different. And I think as a broker gets older and older and more established in business, they really start having those partners. But MIG, we're doing down payment assistance every day for truckers, just trying to help them stay in business. OTR, we're trying to do everything we can. And so I feel heavily invested in truckers, like, to the fullest, and I need them. And the only reason why I probably haven't backed an asset-based business by actually getting on its cap table and being an owner is I feel like that would make me not Switzerland to the trucker, right? And that's what I've tried to be the whole way through, is like, I'm not competing against you, trucking company. I'm trying to make you thrive.
Yep.
And so that's true. But I love trucking companies.
Yeah, you do.
I'll give you a little loan, maybe. But
Yeah.
Joe.
Sweet.
Awesome. Well,
Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.